Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews. Today we're going to take a look at another old, very vintage looking Mojo Fun figure. This one is a Stegosaurus, and I'm going to have to give a shout out to Blue Dragons YT, who is a big fan of the channel and had requested me to review this for him. So here is your Stegosaurus review. As you can see, I did say that it's pretty vintage. It does actually have the tail up off the ground, which is a plus, but overall you can see the sculpt is definitely pretty vintage, very outdated, and at the same time still looks really nice, but considering the current figures being produced by Mojo Fun, even the detailing and sculpt of this is fairly outdated for them. However, it still has a pretty fun feel to it. It's got a very vintage feel, as I've said a few times now, and I really do quite like it at first glance, so we will go ahead and get a closer look. So starting up here at the head sculpt, you can see the head sculpt looks pretty nice, but there's not really too much going on as far as minute detailing goes. I think the shape of the head sculpt looks pretty decent, maybe a little bit too elongated in the face, but it still looks alright. It's got a nice black beak at the end of the mouth, but the lower half for some reason doesn't have black, only the top half does. They did kind of give you some nice skin tone as far as that brown goes. It does get to a darker coloration near the eye and kind of up on the top of the head a little bit. So they've done a pretty decent job as far as skin tone goes. The eye is painted really quite nicely with a blackish coloration. It doesn't appear to be sloppy. Maybe a little bit on this side, but not too much. Has a nice gloss, so it does glisten beautifully in the light. As you move back along the neck, you can see some skin wrinkling going on here in the neck area. The plates start to pick up, and you can see that they are like a reddish brown type coloration that have a darker, almost like a black or burnt umber around it that kind of circle the rim of the plates and does help to give them a good bit of a striking appearance. When you move back here into the shoulder, you can see the shoulder blade a little bit there protruding from the skin. You can move down here into the leg, and the leg looks pretty nicely sculpted. The foot does look really nice, and the coloration tapers off into this blackish coloration, again similar to what you see on the top of the plates down here on the feet. That's the same color that you get for the majority of the feet, but you have a little bit of a gray coloration on the nails, just to highlight the nails a little bit and kind of bring them to your attention. Some nice creases in the skin here in the joint of the leg. I'm not really a big fan as far as the sculpt work goes of the skin detail and skin texture. I really feel like it's pretty generic, but at the same time this is such an old Mojo Fun figure that I kind of expected it to look like this, because they all had this very Mojo-ish type of a look to it, because at this time they kind of sculpted all their detail when it came to the skin texture in a very similar way. So this is kind of what I expect on an older Mojo Fun figure, but because I come into this review knowing that and expecting that, it doesn't really take away from the figure, and I really do quite like it, even with the somewhat bad detailing of the skin texture. It looks okay, it's just really not that great. I think maybe a dark wash could have helped to make some of the detail look a little better than it does. The plates are actually quite nicely detailed. You can definitely see there is some beautiful sculpt work and cracks and creases and everything all throughout the plates. There's a little bit of sloppiness of this plate here that's gotten down onto the figure though. You can see some nicely defined musculature here in the rear leg as you move down into the foot once again with that darker coloration. Some nice creases here again in the joint of the leg. It's kind of just standing in a very neutral pose, so there isn't really too much going on that's displaying the movement of the dinosaur when it comes to like the skin pulling or stretching or anything or bunching up. You can see a few wrinkles here behind this leg trying to show the little bit of movement that is occurring on the dinosaur. The tail comes out to a nice point here, and you can see that it's pretty stiff looking. It's got a little bit of a curve. And actually mine has a chip taken off of one of the spikes. I'm not sure how or when that happened. I think it might have shown up that way. But a little paint can fix that up and you won't even notice that when I do get around to that. The underside looks pretty bulky actually. Pretty nice looking though. Definitely is well fed as far as the Stegosaurus goes. I almost dropped him turning him around. This side looks just the same as the other side does honestly, because as I said, it is in a really neutral position, just kind of standing here. As you run up here, you can see the shoulder blade there and some wrinkling going on in the skin here kind of showing the movement as this leg is back a little bit further compared to the one on the other side. You see the foot sculpt is looking pretty nice on this side as well. I do like the feet of this Stegosaurus, which sounds weird to say, but the foot sculpt really looks nice on each foot, honestly. Again, you can pick up on that very old school Mojo style of skin texture all throughout the animal. Nicely sculpted plates again on this side. I really do like the plates. Unfortunately, they only have this brownish color on the outside, and when you look at them on the inside, it's kind of the same color that you see as far as the majority of the dinosaur goes. I think it probably would have looked a little better if they included this brown on both sides of the plates. Some nicely defined musculature here again in the rear thigh. You can kind of make out the hip bone a little bit there. And then there's the calf muscle and the nicely sculpted foot back here as well. And then you come back up a few wrinkles behind the leg here, and that tail that I said is very stiff, and I can't get these tags out of the way. Very stiff and comes to a nice point here at the end. You can see that the spikes are actually the same color pretty much as the rest of the body, but taper off to a darker black color at the end just to give them some color tone, and it does look pretty nice. The paint scheme is pretty plain, not too much going on, kind of has like a stripe of black that runs the length of the dinosaur, but other than that it's all like this light brown, and then you can see a few shades of like a darker coloration here and there to give it some skin tone. And then you've got the brown up on the plates, that reddish brown, which does give it quite the striking appearance. It's a fairly plain paint scheme, but I really do quite like it, actually. Again, a pretty vintage-looking Stegosaurus, not the most appealing or highly detailed, but for when this was made, it was still pretty fun. As far as the size goes on this old-school Mojo Fun Stegosaurus, from the head to the tail, you're looking at about 7¼ inches, or about 18, almost 18.5 centimeters. And for a height, the highest point is going to be that plate there, and you're looking at about 3¾ inches, or about 9.5 centimeters. For a size comparison, you've got the Papo Green T-Rex, and this is obviously a battle that you would have never seen in person, considering the fact that these lived millions of years apart. But this should help to give you a good idea that this Stegosaurus from Mojo is a fairly decent size. It's probably, like I would say, a medium-sized figure, but at the same time, it's decently sized next to the Papo Rex. So is this the most highly detailed Stegosaurus you're ever going to find? Definitely not. But is it still fun? I think so. I'm a fan of older vintage figures, so I'm kind of a sucker for figures like this, and it really does have a nice appearance to it overall as far as the body shape and everything goes. I think maybe the tail might be a little tad short, but maybe not. It's a little tough to tell as it's got that curve kind of deceiving me. I think the plates have a very nice appearance to the way that they taper off to a beautiful point at the top, and that paint application they've used on the plates really does help to give it a striking look with that nice reddish brown kind of outlined by that rim of a dark black or dark burnt umber brown. It really does help to give it a nice look, a nice appearance. The coloration of the animal is a fairly natural type of a coloration, something I could probably see a Stegosaurus being. There's really just not too much as far as color tones go, but it does still look pretty nice for what it is. Again, it does include the vintage Mojo Fun style sculpting of the skin texture, so that's definitely something that if you're a fan of older Mojo Fun figures, you're kind of accustomed to at this point. And again, it looks okay, it's just really not the most up-to-date or best Stegosaurus you're ever going to find. So if you're looking for something that's really highly detailed and really up-to-date, this definitely isn't your guy. But if you're looking for something that's old school and just fun, this could be your guy. I definitely like him. So I will try to find a link where you can pick this guy up on Amazon.com so you can own this very cool old school Mojo Fun Stegosaurus for yourself. So check the description, head on over and buy this Stegosaurus if you'd like, but before you do that, don't forget to please like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.